Alright, we're gonna talk about Tower of Vent Trauma. I just really like this tower, and I just beat it right now, and it was very fun. So first, we're just gonna go over the tower. Then we're gonna talk about its gameplay and design and creativity. And I just really like good towers. So as you can see, the tower is fully bent. There's not one single straight floor, not even floor one. And it is very punishing. It is also pretty short, surprisingly. Even if you're... yeah, it's just pretty short. But the jumps are very mechanically... you require good camera control and like good fundamentals, because this tower is mostly purist. And as you can see, from about floor 5, which is the darkest floor here, and up, there's nothing to catch you, not the previous floors, and you will, in the actual game, you'll just drop into the lava. And so yeah, you really want to practice from floor 5 up, especially this last stretch, because there are some techniques which I will get into later. First, we'll now go over the gameplay. So the gameplay, as you can see, it should set in. Maybe I need to touch the floor. Okay, yep. So you can see it gets foggy, and I'm actually gonna just turn my graphics down. And yep. So as you go up, it's gonna get more foggy, and you'll see, but right now we're just going to try to concentrate on the gameplay. So first floor, it's nothing too special, it's mostly just some basic jumps. I really love the way this tower uses trusses, because it perfectly discerns when you need to be using a truss and when you need to be using a ladder. The difference between the truss is the block, and ladders are when you need one, the alternating between one studs. So yeah, you can see the truss. I really like these types of jumps in this tower because they are surprisingly tolerant, but they're still fun. And they just require good camera control and player momentum, if you could say that. So the first floor, good use of spinners. Next floor, just some walkarounds. And this is actually the only button progress, and I'd say the creator of this tower, it kind of makes me think, I think there's only one piece of button progress in this tower, not because this tower was aimed to be short, but because if you are falling and you think of resetting, well, you might as well not, because you have button progress, and that bare amount of button progress is enough to keep you from resetting. You can get really fast at this too. It's not like this part is too hard. And we can see an excellent use of trusses and wraparounds. Take a look at this wraparound. You really want good fundamentals. And see how your camera has to flick back to the truss. Just some basic jumps too. The first floors are actually not that interesting to talk about. It's the later floors that get much more fun to play, but harder too. This one, another basic wraparound, it just sticks out a bit. This is a ladder climb, another ladder climb. So I would say this tower took a lot of inspiration from Tower of Verdant Entropy, but I'd say like one of the ladder climbs, the truss climbs, high truss climbs are one of those. And yeah. Oh, I failed. This one is a good use between trusses and ladders, because if that was a truss, you probably would have a lot less of a hard time jumping on it. This one, the truss isn't even needed, but it's probably just like a design choice. And I really just like how brutal some of these jumps are. Look at this one. This looks really hard. You would want to you might want to wedge yourself in there somehow, but actually you can just, it's no different than a long jump. And yeah, the pathing is also what I find most captivating about these towers, because look at this jump. It looks so unfriendly, but it's also really satisfying. The use of trusses in this tower, I'd say, are yeah, they're 10 out of 10. They're easy 10 out of 10. And spinners too, because spinners aren't actually used too much, but when they are, they're really good. And I'm pretty sure this and the spinners on floor 1 are the only use of spinners. This one I really like because it's very creative and yet challenging, and you really just have to find your own method, because my method: climb on the truss, jump down, jump again, and that specific amount of times. And you really just have to rush that last part for me personally. Look how the structure, it's perfectly made. And I am the #1 Tower of Vent Trauma glazer. This one, I don't actually like this part very much. It just didn't seem very necessary. It just seems like a place to waste your time. There's not really a risk of falling. I actually fell here once, but I've fallen on other jumps probably more. But there's no risk. It's not like mechanically challenging. You just have to see if you can time yourself. Now, this is what I mean by unfriendly. It's not really clear how you could line yourself up. You should kind of just have to do it. And trust your muscle memory of camera control. This example, because if you just try to, you hit your head. So you have to find your own path and trust in your camera control. And look, I love the way these wraparounds are made, because they are unique wraparounds. We'll get to see some more on floor 5, but take a look at these. It's kind of, you could either approach it by not lining yourself against that wedge and just jumping, but you could also approach it and you would get more leeway if you lined yourself fully with that wedge. And it's a kind of an unique but fun turnaround. This is one of the other spinners. Nothing to say here, it's just a spinner. It's more of a transitional part. And look, these wraparounds, this one, I think they wanted you to grab on the truss here, but you can do it without. But it's still fun because I just find wraparounds to be fun. I think they're just the most skill expressive way to jump. So you can see here, it's a stick out, but it's not brutally hard. It's still challenging, and unique still, the pathing. It's more, you have to kind of treat this like a cylinder. You can't really, for most wraparounds you'd want to flick like that, but for this one you just have to get the most out of your jumps. This one, you don't even need the ladder for that. Same for this one and this one. It's more of a transitional part, I'd say. this jump, this is one of the best examples of unfriendly jumps, this section actually, because you can't tackle it head on. You have to use weird angles, and that could be said about a lot of this tower. So yeah, you kind of want to shift block here. You can't really flat side it. Well, you can, but it's going to be a lot scarier if you do, and probably less easy. A lot of these wedging yourself in parts of the tower, I really like. Just another filler part, I'd say. Just basic wraparound. It's still a unique wraparound, but it's basic. And a truss flick. And another one of these angled parts where you have to wedge yourself in. It's not quite awkward, it's just unfriendly. And this is floor 5, I believe. And yeah, it's one of the wraparounds that I really like. This one, it's really challenges your camera control or player control. But you have to stay as close as you can to the wall. That can be said about most wraparounds. But this one, it is especially emphasized because if you just try to camera control it, you're gonna have a harder time. But if you also use your character's walking ability, you get a lot more leeway on how you jump. This one is also, this jump isn't actually as scary as it looks, but it's still unfriendly. And that's what I like about most towers, if they're unfriendly or not. This jump is probably the tightest jump of the game, yet the most free jump of the game, because it's just a long jump. And you can see more of this wraparound style gameplay, where you really just want a good fundamental of camera control and movement. Because I failed this jump at least twice, but that's my own fault. Because I didn't know, because I'm not being close enough with my character or camera. I'm just pressing W and hoping I land. Just the basic, this one's just a basic wraparound. But it's transitional, so it doesn't really matter. Later on in the tower, I'd say it actually gets awkward until the final stretch, but right now it's just unfriendly. I love these types of spinners. Now here's where it actually gets punishing, where if you fall, you have nothing to catch yourself on. Let me just go back to where I was. One, look, it looks so unfriendly. Look how far it looks. Look how high it looks compared to my jump. But you make it anyways. It's just one block. And the unfriendly design of this tower just makes it beautiful to me. Look how that. You can't actually just tackle this jump head on. Well, you can, but it's much more easier if you just understand how you wedge yourself in, which is also one of the fundamentals, understanding how you can jump onto objects. Because look, if you were to just jump this normally, you would hit your head, so you kind of have to strafe your way inside of that, under that platform, like a reverse head hitter almost. Just some basic jumps until we get to here, this truss. Now, this is probably one of the best parts, yet hardest. Actually, I'd say most people would say this is the hardest part of the tower. But what you want to do, you can tackle it like a regular flick, But something you can also do, which you will also need, the strategy for long flicks, you tilt yourself just a bit and just treat it like a regular jump. Oh dear. Yeah, and see how that just gives me so much more room to make the jump compared to this, where I really have to be smooth, understand smoothness and flicking with my camera. This one, I also really like these weird angled ladders, or trusses. This one, you need to understand how height works for this one, and you'll see actually a lot of parts in these towers, in this tower, have high jumps, and you just need to understand where you are best situated for getting height. Because look, you would think you would want to jump on this part, but actually, you just won't be at the apex of your jump. You just need to understand how your timings of jump works. And if you stand on this lower step, you'll be there in time to reach this part with the apex of your jump. And this is another example of, now this is the part of the tower where I'd say it would get more awkward, but this is an example of one of the awkward jumps. Look how weird it is. Because most people would, first of all, this is a extended head hitter and a wraparound, and it's angled, and that's what makes it unfriendly. Because how are you supposed to approach it? If you wanted to approach it like a wraparound, you do that. But it's kind of awkward too. So it's actually better to treat this like a head hitter, kind of. You actually kind of like need to move yourself outside, away from the other side, to better be able to get a jump. This one you want to just go to the lowest part. If you go into the highest part, you're just not going to be able to jump. So, yep, there. So, just go on the lowest part. Another example, I am a fan of mostly purist gameplay, but I do like when basic mechanics are expanded on through purist gameplay, and these are some examples, because you have to wrap yourself on that and then do a long jump onto a truss. This jump you actually don't want to, you would think you'd want to go on this base thing, but you want to go on the truss. This one, you could actually just skip that. It's not really needed. If you have a good jump on this, you just won't need the bottom part. And another example of a high jump. Some filler content. Another extended, angled head hitter. And I just really like the uses of trusses. They are used to be able to create longer jumps because these trusses are able to catch you. Look at that. Look how nice that jump is. First of all, you have a nice long head wraparound and a cool head hitter. You don't even need to do what I ever did. You don't even have to like really flick, because look at the distance. Yeah, and now some just nice long jumps. This one is another example of how the creator uses high jumps, because look, you can't actually make that jump if you just did normally. Sure, you can if you do the high jump technique, but the intended way is to like really go out there and climb onto that one stud. The thing about this tower is that it doesn't I don't think it ever uses like regular wraparounds, it always has something unique to do with them. This one, it's a stick out onto an angled platform, which you also need to wedge yourself into. Basic jump. This is another example of a high jump, or the use of trusses, that really emphasizes or allows you to, or allows the creator to do longer jumps. This is, yeah, alright, never mind. This one, this is probably the biggest choke of the tower because it's so weird. But, yeah, so look, another example of high jumps. If you just, first of all, it's a squeeze, a 2-stud squeeze. Yep. And if you just try to not climb onto it, you just fail. So mid-turn, you have to rotate your character. And this one, you want to get to the closest the edge as possible, because if you're on this edge, the highest part, you're just not going to be able to jump. And also, for most rat stick head hitters, you want to like do it like that, but since it is a 2-stud and your character is 2 studs wide, it's actually better to just do it like horizontally. Just a simple wraparound. Like, look, this is what I mean by regular wraparounds. It's not, there's nothing unique about this. All you do is jump around. But so are most wraparounds, so I can't really make that argument. What I'm saying is that it's not basic. There's always like a twist, sort of, like another angled part, or a stick out, or all three. Alright, I kind of glazed on that for too long, so regular jump onto a spinner. This one's a stick out on a spinner, and that's what makes it unique. This part, so you can't actually be flush with this because of the wedge. So you can like treat it like a head hitter, but I prefer to like jump outside or intentionally go farther so I can jump onto it, have an easier time, and have less of a chance to hit my head. But it's whatever works for you, really. And the amount of ways you can do an obby is what I'd say, like, gives you the ability to have fun on it, excluding the difficulty. And another example of those high jumps, because I really like high jumps, and this is also notorious for choking people, other than the final stretch. But you just want to make sure, if you think you're ready to go for it, hit your head once, and then you can go for it. Oh dear. And yeah, it's another one of the, this would actually be considered a wraparound, because it's just like a corner wraparound, sort of, onto a truss. It's a high jump, wraparound, and truss climb. And a squeeze, technically, because you have to squeeze yourself into between those parts. Oh dear. Another squeeze, but look, you can't really find examples of just one type. This is not only a squeeze, this is also a high jump. And even with my example from earlier, this is not only a wraparound, it's a wraparound with an angled part. You have to, it's not landing on the same object. So let's just go back. Look, it's not just a regular jump. Even though it's transitional, you have to do a long jump and climb. So, and again, these are head hitters, but they're wedged head hitters, and they're extended. So now we're on floor 10. Wraparound. Look how nice the flow goes, the smoothness of the wraparounds are. You really need to learn camera control if you want to do that. I'm kind of creating an S pattern with my mouse, but yeah, you just want to understand camera and player movement. This one, you can actually, anything with an object over your head, it's not just a regular jump, it's a head hitter, so you have to be more precise with your timings to make sure you don't hit your head. And just another well-made use of spinners, because normally you walk on spinners, but this one you jump and jump from spinners. This one is also a pretty scary part, but it's also another example of high jumps onto trusses. Because, here, I'll show you in floor 10. Right now, actually. This is just a high jump. It's nothing more than that. You could say it's a high jump to a truss, but if this could be just a regular high jump and nothing would change. So if we go to back, this one, it's a jump, and it's a climb too, so yeah. It's like the difference between a 12 stud and a 13 stud. 12 studs are just long jumps. 13 studs, you need to climb. And I just really enjoy the gameplay philosophy of this tower. Now, here's the notorious final stretch. So, you can see the gameplay actually eases up a bit here, because it is a final stretch. Even though actually no, it doesn't quite ease up, it just gets slightly less complicated, I'd say. So here you can see about that high jump, there's not really anything making this jump unique. But look at this. It's a head hitter wraparound, and it's an extended head hitter. Onto a truss jump, onto a wrap, onto another wrap, onto another extended head hitter. And when I say by another wrap, this is a squeeze wrap, I'd say. Or not quite squeeze, but like a wedge. Not as in the part, just a wedge wrap, because you have to wedge yourself in between those two parts in order to make it. Kind of like those earlier jumps on floor 5. That one's just a regular truss jump. There's not anything making it interesting. And this part doesn't even need to be spinning. It wouldn't really change the difficulty. Oh dear. Another high jump. Another truss. And yeah, I want you to take a look at the pathing. As you can see, it's very vertical, but you have like a lot of rotating between the back side and front side. So let's take a look. We're on the front side, now we're on the back side. We're on the, oops, I mistimed that. Now, we're going back to the front side. Now, we're going to the back side. It just requires a lot of, like, camera movement. Now this is the first long truss jump, and you do the same thing you did in floor 6. If I could just get it. Yeah, the mistake I'd say most people make is that they jump and move at the same time for this extended technique. But you want to move first and jump just a bit after, and that really makes it more consistent. Look, there's just so many of these high truss jumps. Look, there's one, two, if I could just make it. Oh, if I could just make it. And then 3 of these high truss jumps. And now this is the final jump. Make sure I'd say, if I were to give one advice, practice, make sure, at least do one attempt of floor 6 to the final without failing. Yeah, so there I just pressed my move key and jump at the same time. There I timed it too late. And there I pressed it at the same time. And there we go. So that's the gameplay part, and that's my thoughts, and I just really enjoy the gameplay. But something else I absolutely adore is the design. It really looks unstable, if I could say that. It is stable, I'd say. It's stable. But it also goes for like an unstable, like it's clinging onto the walls, sort of. Here, I just want to point out some of a really nice detail design I noticed. Look at this rope holding up the balloon. We're just gonna follow. I'm not even gonna say anything. It's pretty cool, isn't it? Alright, let's analyze this structure. First of all, they went for the beams instead of sticking to the walls. It's probably because, well, it's kind of hard to make it not pop out of the frame if you stick it to the wall. But look, this doesn't actually have a purpose, but it just fills space, you know? Honestly, you can kind of see it looks like those electric poles you see in the street. Look, this structure too. It just went for those beams, and there's just a large beam in the middle to tie it all together. Look, in all, this floor does feel empty, but it should. I shouldn't do this all again. Look how detailed that arrow is. Look at that. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 11 parts in that one arrow, and I'd say it's worth it because that arrow looks beautiful. Okay, look at this truss. This could easily not be angled, but it being angled makes it look more complete, like it's actually sticking to or part of the wall, this beam here. And it just creates a more connected environment. Look, this truss could also just have easily gone without these beams, but I think the beams really add the structure. And now we go up, and this is where these structures get bigger. Look how big that structure is. It covers the entire floor. So from here all the way to here, your entire gameplay in this floor is based on this structure. And I also just want to point out its use of tight ropes. Look at that. Normally, you would want it to do something like that, but because of like it's in this tower's entire theming of this rope, it really fits in, even though this rope doesn't really look like it's holding up, because it's a rope. And look at that detail. You just see how nothing here is actually rotated. They are wedges, and it just looks fluid to look at. Look at that. There's like a bone of this structure, this darker inner part, which is holding up the lighter wedges. Let's go to the third floor. See, here we have this massive structure, but the ropes are connecting each part. So look, see how it makes sense that this part is holding up because of this fan. But here, it's the ropes are actually holding these structures up. You see? It just looks really pleasant to look to. This is probably the blockiest part in the entire thing, But all the other structures, they're just so varied with wedges. They look textured. Yeah, and this is what I mean by sticking to the wall. Like, I could make this pose with my door. I could just like pretend I'm Spider-Man and climb like that. But yeah, this structure, it's sturdy, yet it's holding on for dear life. Another thing by varied, look how varied this part is. Like, it's very vertical, but it's varied because, for example, look at the use of wedges. It really expands this part and makes it have more of a distinct shape. This part, another structure, and yeah, it does look beautiful. Thank you. And look at that. Look at this beam. It's beautiful. And you actually might notice a kind of path of this spiral kind of structuring. Like, for example, on floor 3 here, we have this spiral going this way. On this floor, we have this spiral going this way again. And it's really, I don't think you ever go this way except on the final floor, but it really, you probably won't notice it, but if you will just, you feel it subconsciously, I'd say. It really creates a smoother experience. Look at this. Look how much structuring goes for these 3 jumps. Look at the amount of effort put into this structure. You have a column, a base, into a column, kind of arm, into a platform which has beams and creates a wall. Look, this part isn't even connected. This part doesn't even need to exist. No one will ever see that part. Oh well, actually it exists so you can't skip it, but still. Here, adds. Look at this smaller part even. It has a distinct shape still. Look at that. It kind of looks like a fish to me, but look at the texturing. There could just be 1 wedge here. I don't think anyone would care. But there's 2. And I'd say it just adds more structure and more of a variety. Look, same thing on this side, mirroring. That's also something you should note about. If you're having giant structures, you should have them mirror, and it just makes them more pleasant. Unless those structures are distinct enough. But these, they're pretty similar. You see, it kind of creates a wall. This has a corner, this has a corner. Look at this. I noticed this in my time playing. It's so simple, but it's so effective. Same for this. It's just like a small ledge you can climb up on if you were rock climbing. Look at that, look at that, look at that. And it just brings it back together with this massive beam. It just keeps growing and it really looks sturdy. Look at the symmetry of that. It's being held onto for dear life. Look at that. It's a beautiful structuring, beautiful structuring. And another example of barely holding onto the walls and using friction to be held up. Another example. Look, I just really like how the creator connects his structures. There's not really any floating structures except, you know, these in this floor. But look, if we just keep going up here, because I don't really have time to go over everything, look how the shape is so distinct. Look at that. It's so distinct and it works so well. Look at the depth of that. It has backwards, forwards. I never even noticed this part. But I'm sure if it wasn't there, I would have noticed. And it's just beautiful. Again, we have Here, I'm just gonna actually remove my fog. Look, also you should even know, because of the fog, you probably can't even see like this part. It's just so well detailed. Look at the use of cylinders. It makes a perfectly balanced frame to look at. If that was a wedge or a square, it would not have worked as well. Just look at, there's just so many horizontal beams and angled parts like this that really make this pleasant to look at. Here, this is what it looks like. Just from the outside, if this would just load. Alright, look. Just look how nice that looks. You don't really focus in on everything, but the structuring just makes it nice to look at. It really looks like a mega structure even. This, if you remove the frame, it would just look like one collective structure, and I think that's what makes it nice, because it's separated, yes, but looking at it as a whole, it looks connected. Look at this. Look at this. Now on this final part, it's literally just floating. There's nothing really holding it up, but it's still connected because of this rope. Look at the significance of that rope. It holds the entire part together without even needing to touch it. And even with these smaller structures, the creator still, hold on, I gotta turn this off. The creator still manages to create a nice shape to look at. Like, look at this. Look how angled and varied and the shape of this one structure. And it just goes like this until the top. Look at this. It kind of looks like this tower, this structure has a curve because of how it was built. There's nothing is angled here. It's literally all straight up, but the wedges add so much detail and so much depth. Look at this. The wedges do add a bit of gameplay here, but I think that also it adds like a nice depth to look at. Because like honestly, if without this inner wedge, you probably wouldn't even. It probably didn't even matter if that inner wedge was there, but that inner wedge is only used for this part, and without it, this part specifically would probably look flat and not depth structured. This part is probably the weakest structure of them all, but I still kind of like it, I guess. It's just basic. Look. See how flat this is? This is something I actually noticed when playing, or when I was practicing. First of all, this part is miscolored, I think? Oh no, that's just the lighting. But first off, this part just looks out of place. It looks like it wants to be part of this, but it isn't. What I'd say to improve this, add wedges and make this like a cross, I guess. Oh wait, no, that would obstruct the gameplay. I would say like here especially, this jump has a lot of leeway. You could probably make it harder and it'd be fine. Maybe make this a bit closer, but what I'd say, make it like a semi-stick out, like one stud or half a stud, and just place it on there, and it would just add so much more depth. Or even like rotate it 45 degrees, or a wedge here maybe. And yeah, just look at it, just looks so slanted, yet it's straight, and that's what makes this tower really great.